Okay, good morning. I hope you can hear me okay. Can anybody just put we chat up to let me know if you can hear me okay. I've got a different microphone today. I'm hoping that that it's working okay. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm Brenda Hector from ActionCOACH. I'm a business growth specialist up in Aberdeen in Scotland. And today we're going to talk about how to be a good listener. I'm just checking there's something going on in the chat box there. I'll just open it up. Perfect. You can hear me fine. So on the screen, can you see my slides okay on the screen? So if you ask most people if they're a good listener, and chances are they'll say, of course. But in reality, very few of us are actually good at listening effectively. And in my job as a business coach, I need to be listening really hard to what my clients are telling me, because sometimes the truth in what they're telling me is between the lines, if you like. But over the next hour, we'll work together to address half an hour, I think. We'll work together to address what makes for a good listener and how you can work on your habits to help you connect better with the people that you talk to. A study of over 8,000 employees from various job backgrounds found that almost all participants believed that they communicated as effectively or more effectively than their co-workers. But if you've got any kind of small understanding of statistics, you'll know that there's no way that everybody can be above average. So in reality, the average person listens at only about 25% efficiency. So while most people agree that listening's a really important skill, the majority don't feel a strong need to improve that skill. So it's probably because effective listening is not something that we really talk about, which is strange because, we're social creatures who thrive on communication, and listening is arguably the most important aspect of effective communication. Although when you think about communication, you think about what you deliver rather than what you get back in communication. So you think about what you're saying rather than what other people are saying. So a study of managers and employees in a high-stress hospital setting found that listening explained 40% of the variance in effective leadership. So if you think of someone that you believe to be an effective leader in your life, like a teacher, a politician, a boss, or even a parent, think about that person. Do you consider them to be a good listener? As a leader, working on your listening skills, that helps to foster the bonds and trust between yourself and your subordinates. Because being a good listener helps to demonstrate the concern you have for their well-being. That makes them more committed to you and the work that they do to you. So listening is a big part of emotional intelligence, which is it's quite a hot topic at the moment. Lots being talked about around the field of EQ, or emotional intelligence. So effective listening tends to reduces how much interpersonal conflict you get, because it's more likely that a dispute can be resolved by coming to a win-win situation if you're listening to what the other person's saying properly. So think about it. When you feel as though nobody's listening to your side of the story, you're more likely to be on the defense and be more passionate about your point. But on the other hand, if you feel as though your concerns are being taken into account, if you feel you're being listened to, then you'll probably be more likely to agree to a compromise and try to work towards a middle ground. So at this point, I'm sure you're ready to finally get to the bottom of what effective listening is and how to get into the habit of practicing it. So you put in the comments there, in one sentence, describe what you think effective listening is. So I'll just wait a few minutes till you can all get a comment in the chat box. What do you think effective listening is? So I've got a few different comments there around what effective listening is. And effective listening is actively absorbing information. So showing the speaker that you're listening and that you're engaged, and then providing feedback that shows them that they've been heard. So in other words, effective listeners show speakers that they've been heard and understood. Like I mentioned before, humans are social creatures who thrive on relationships. So one of the best things you can do for another person is to show them that their communication is working and that their message is being delivered effectively. So have you ever left a conversation feeling more confused and lost than you did going into it? That's poor communication. And think of a time that you've sat down with someone and discussed your thoughts in a way that almost left you with a sense of relief when you walked away. Oops, I think I'm on the wrong slide. Just go back a slide. This slide, yeah, so your body language is extremely important, and an extremely important component when you're listening. And some research suggests that it's more important than the words that you speak. When you're having a conversation with someone, face the speaker and maintain eye contact. It can let them know that they have your undivided attention. Another faux pas when it comes to communication is to be crossing yourself off from the person with your arms or legs. Psychology shows that crossed arms can be interpreted as a sign of defensiveness or awkwardness. So if you're looking to create an environment of openness and let the person you're talking to feel that you're listening, is keep your arms and legs uncrossed. Sit in plain view of our talking partners with no barriers in the way, like a desk. If you're sitting having an in-depth conversation with someone, having a desk in front of you, being on either side of the desk, really puts a barrier in place there. When you're talking to someone while they're looking around the room, they're checking their watch or checking their computer screen, or gazing out the window, looking at their phone, it makes you feel as though you're not being heard. So while you might be thinking that your multitasking skills are good enough to hold a conversation and simultaneously do something else, there's no doubt that making a habit of this will create some tension between you and the people you're having conversations with. Oops, I clicked back there. That was it. Put your phone down. And I should clarify that although eye contact is important, there is such a thing as too much eye contact. You don't have to stare at the other person. You can look away now and then and just be attentive. Nod occasionally to show the person that you're listening. And this is really important. Is effective listening means listening without judging the other person, or in your head, you shouldn't be criticizing the things that they're telling you. You're not listening to respond. You're just listening to learn something new. So don't jump to conclusions about the things that they're saying. Instead, ask more questions. So don't be a sentence grabber. Sometimes when you're taking in information and you have your own train of thoughts running through your mind, it makes it easy to try to jump in and finish other people's thoughts or sentences. I know that I've got a tendency to do that, and I'm trying really hard not to be that person. And when someone's talking to you, try and paint a mental picture of what they're saying. So this can help you focus and also connect more to the words that they're speaking. So when you're listening for long stretches of a story, concentrate on and remember the key words and phrases, and then your brain will do the rest of the work for you. So if your thoughts start to wander, you refocus with a question or restate what they said. So it's okay to stop them and say something like, wait, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify that I'm following you. You said, and then repeat what you thought they said. Or just say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part? So it doesn't make it come across that you weren't listening. It's what comes across is that you want to understand. So the person won't mind the interruption as long as your recap isn't entirely off base. If you really weren't listening and you just made it up, that doesn't work. So when you're listening to someone, when they're talking about a problem, try and stop yourself from suggesting solutions. And this is really difficult for many people to do. We all want to help, and when the answer seems clear to you, you want to share it. But most of the time, people just want to share their thoughts. They're not necessarily asking you for a solution. If you are bursting with a brilliant idea, then ask the person you're having the conversation with, would you like to hear my thoughts? So then get permission to come up with a solution for them. This is interesting. We all think and speak at different rates. So if you're a quick thinker and are one to chime in, then it's up, to butt in. It's up to you to learn how to stop and slow down. In order to be an effective listener, you have to train yourself to stop interrupting. When you cut someone off and come in with your own thoughts, basically what you're saying is, I'm more important than you are, or what I've got to say is more interesting, accurate, or relevant than what you're saying. What you're saying doesn't really matter, or I don't have time for this conversation. Sometimes when you butt in like that, this is a contest of who knows more, and I'm going to win. So these might not be what you're intending to communicate, but with any of those things, your action will suggest otherwise. The best journalists, interviewers, and researchers learn the importance of probing. That's a good word, probing. Importance of probing early on. And probing just means asking for more information, but it can help you to understand the situation more fully. And effective probing comes from a non-judgmental place, and it follows the flow of what's been previously said. So as well as that, probing really shows the person you're speaking with that you're paying attention to detail and that you're fully invested in what they're saying. And the more questions you ask, the more probing that you do, it really helps build rapport. So if they feel that you're interested and listening properly, really helps build rapport. And that's really important in so many roles in life and in business. Being an effective listener involves learning to respond in ways that won't sound off-putting to the person who's speaking. So this means that you really need to avoid accusation type questions like, why would you do that? Or how could you have thought that that was a good idea? You know, while your intentions might be innocent, the tone of the phrases will likely come off as judgmental, and that's not your goal. Excuse me. So we're all guilty of jumping in and sharing our own stories about a topic as they're being discussed, but that's a habit that we should break. And I think it's really common in management and leadership where you're somebody in a senior role wants to take their knowledge and expertise and pass that down to people, you know, more junior. And while it's intended as, comes with the right intention, you know, that you don't want people to have to go through the learning process or to make mistakes that they don't need to make because you know your knowledge can help them. It's not always best received. So think of it from the perspective of the person that you're in conversation with. You know, they've come to you to share their thoughts, and in response you've just started talking about yourself. Well, I did it this way, or, you know, this gives the impression that we're not listening or we don't care about the other person's experience. And although usually we mention our own experiences as a way, with the intention of letting them know you're not alone, what we risk doing is sending the message that we're superior or more important. So if you find yourself doing this, finish your thought quickly and then apologise. You know, say something like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get us off track, and this isn't a conversation about me. Let's get back on topic. So I want to reiterate that you've got to be mindful about giving unsolicited advice. Most people give advice because they like to, but when you start advising without the consent from the person that you're chatting to, then you've stopped listening and you risk dominating the dialogue. So rather than assuming that somebody wants your advice, be safe and remain quiet unless they ask for your opinion. If this is really hard for you, then, you know, there's some things that you can try. You can ask the person something like, have you thought about what your next step is? And then that gives them the chance to say, yes, I do. And they'll tell you what it is. Or, no, do you have any ideas? So, you know, thank them for sharing this information with you and let them know that you're here for them if they need any more guidance. And keep in mind that your goal as a listener is to try and develop a deeper bond. And if your goal is to have a better connection, better rapport with someone, then you should be making an effort to work with them instead of telling them what to do. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm on the right slide. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. I've rattled through this content today. I hope you've found it valuable for you. So in conclusion then, as an active listener, your ultimate goal is to get as much information as possible in a time-efficient manner and then leave the conversation on better terms. So the important takeaways from this are that, you know, set the environment for a comfortable conversation through body language. You know, be open and inclusive in your body language. Be mindful of the way that you react to phrases and ideas, especially those that you might not agree with. That reminds me of something that we say a lot in ActionCOACH, that we never use the words "I know." We use the term "isn't that interesting." That's a useful phrase to use in those circumstances. And effective listening means asking questions that encourage the speaker to share more with you. And then, as I said, really important, refrain from giving unsolicited advice. Because just because they're telling you what the circumstances are doesn't mean that they want to know what you consider to be the solution. So, just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join me on this webinar, or if you're watching or listening to the recording, thanks for taking the time to do that. Absolutely love getting to chat with you, and I hope that you've all learned some valuable information about how to be a more effective listener. Within ActionCOACH, you know, the word action is there for a reason. So what I'd really like you to do is write down or put it in the chat box here what you're going to do, what action you're going to take on the back of this webinar to improve your skills as a listener, and therefore improve your communication skills. So what are you going to do? What action are you going to take from this webinar? Excuse me. So like I said, if you've got any questions or would like to find out more about communication skills, or more about myself or what I do, then, you know, please reach out, get in touch. If you Google Brenda Hector ActionCOACH, you can find me, or if you found this through my YouTube channel or my social media pages, just drop me a message, and it would be great to have a chat with you. Thank you very much for joining me. There'll be another webinar next month. I'll put the topic out to you soon, and yeah, be a good communicator. Listen well. Thanks, everyone. Bye.